Today, we're going to free off the rear brakes with this hammer.
All right, well, there you go. She's off. You know. So we went out and said, hey, we're going to get this Jaguar that we've never seen, that we've never driven, we don't know anything about it, and we're going to restore it and get it back on the road. And that sounded like a really good idea. It sounded like a lot of fun, but I don't know how many episodes you need to make a series, but if it's just one, it's going to be a real short series, because at this point, I don't even know if this car's savable still.
The big hammer approach was working, but it's too time consuming, so I think it's going to be easier and better all round to just drop the whole subframe. There we go. And let's see if we can get all the way down. Beautiful.
If we can turn the engine over by hand, I think it's a huge moment for this project. Knowing the engine is not seized is literally night and day difference between this project being a goer and this being a pile of parts.
Now that the rear axle's been dropped, we should have much better access to the rear calipers and should be able to free off the rear brakes.
The easy option would be to break this car for parts. Look, if the engine isn't seized, that's worth probably as much as we paid for the car easily. The gearbox, again, £700–800 quite easily. The interior is absolutely immaculate. You could break this car for more money than we purchased it for. That is not the end game here. That is the absolute worst case scenario. This car, we've got to try and save it.
Well, we tried it with the stick and we only got so far. So now we get to cutting. I'm going to cut the handbrake cable because it's already seized, and that's the only thing holding it, the rear subframe up. So the plan is to try and rotate the whole thing this way.
Right now, I think what's holding this car together is, I was going to say luck, but actually we haven't had much of that yet. A bit of goodwill, a bit of rust, and a lot of enthusiasm in holding not just the car together, but the whole project together, really. It's a lot of goodwill and a lot of hope.
No.
So I guess sometimes you reach for the hammer. When the hammer fails, you reach for a bigger hammer. When the bigger hammer fails, it's normally time to get it bloody hot.
Just like that.
Killing bushes with fire is normally the answer. It always gets them out eventually.
Need a little more height. Now we've adjusted the height of the vehicle, we will be able to pull the rear axle out to the rear of the vehicle.
So ultimately, the brakes aren't seized. It looks like the diff is now seized, or something in there is very, very seized. So the only way really to proceed at this point is to drop the subframe out. It's the job I'd rather we didn't have to do this way, but there's no other way. It's got to come out. It's a step really in the wrong direction in many ways, and I am a little bit concerned already if the diff is seized, is the gearbox seized, is the engine seized, and is this the beginning of a nasty direction that we're turning in?
And there she is. So the pads are absolutely jammed in there. The caliper's definitely seized in place, so I'm just taking away some of this material. As you can see, I've already taken the pins out, the retaining pins. They were seized in place as well, and they look like snapped. So should now be able to pull that out. There we go. And that is what's left of the rear brake pads on this vehicle.
When we realised the rear diff was seized solid, now that's happened out of pure corrosion, you do have to start worrying what else that corrosion has got into. What is the engine going to be like? And my confidence has dropped since it's arrived to a point worryingly low at times. But if it turns over by hand, I'm actually very confident this engine will start. So I'm swinging massively at the moment. If it's going to be free and it's going to turn over by hand, I'm pretty confident with a little bit of work it's going to start. And if it starts, we're in business.
And that, as we can see, is a seized rear diff. Lovely.
The good news now the subframe is out is actually we can have a good look at it, and it's not completely rusted. So whilst we seem to have quite a major problem with the actual differential, the carrier, the subframe could be rotten. That's an expensive piece of metal, and to see that actually that is quite solid, now we've got a little bit of good news. So far I feel this project's been a little bit of bad news, a little bit of bad news, a bit more bad news, slowly moving in the wrong direction. Suddenly it looks like we're getting a couple of positive. The first positive actually is the subframe has come out, it's in one piece, it's not rotten. We might have something we can work with here. Maybe not the diff, but at least the subframe is savable.
So we're going to use a pallet jack to jack up the back end and try and get it into position so we can get on the two-post ramp.
Why do you have a pallet truck?
We've got no rear diff. There is, we've already removed the rear axle, so the only real way of doing it is either this way or with some straps and some very strong people.
So the whole pallet truck thing, I've got to be honest, I looked at it and thought, what the bloody hell are we doing here? But actually, when you look at it, it's genius, and it worked a treat. Once the diff's out, it's very difficult to move that vehicle around. You don't really want to use a forklift because you can do a lot of damage underneath. The wooden pallet truck actually worked an absolute treat. The guys came together and, well, we got it on a ramp and no damage done. So it has to be a win-win, really. I think my overall concern about moving it was if it slipped and came off the pallet, how actually would they then get it lifted back up and get it back onto the ramp. So I was a bit concerned to see it moving, and it was a bit precarious, but actually went to plan.
So you don't want to be on the exhaust?
Yeah, it's just
The exhaust, it's fine.
Yep.
And again.
And again.
Whatever.
She's in.
She's in, lads.
All right, let's get her up. So I think to get the car on the ramp actually feels like massive progress. And not only that, but to be able to get underneath it and see that the subframes, the sills, and a lot of parts that I was quite worried about, jacking points, etc. I was really worried we were going to get a lot of corrosion. But to see it on the ramp, see the car being worked on, and see actually that it is pretty solid underneath gives me a lot of hope we are going down the right track with this.
The fuel tank hasn't got a hole in it. That's a bonus.
It's one of the only things that hasn't. Actually, it doesn't look too bad, does it?
Doesn't look terrible.
How bad is that up there, Chris, that suspension? It looks quite
cosmetic.
I was going to say, it looks quite solid, doesn't it?
Yeah, most of it seems cosmetic. New bushes. New bushes and pinned, probably.
That's not.
I don't know whether that's just surface or not.
It doesn't look too bad, actually, does it?
I think it'll be okay. On the whole,
Again.
it's just rubbers and
Yeah.
surface rust.
It's just wear and tear stuff.
Okay. So what's your next plan of approach, Chris? I think we need to.
I'm going to.
We know we've got problems with diff. I think we need to look at engine and gearbox next.
Yes.
Bolts just there.
The body isn't going to write it off by the look of it. You know, there's some minor repairs, but actually it's not too bad. The next thing that's going to stop it being a goer is engine. So what? Pop the plugs out, see if we can turn it over by hand.
Okay.
We send the diff off for reconditioning. While we do that, we see if we can get the engine running.
That sounds like a great plan to me. Yeah, we'll pop the plugs out. We're going to have to remove the viscous fan just to be able to turn it over by hand.
Yeah.
And then, with a bit of luck, that will be freed up enough so that we'll be able to turn it over manually.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think for me, ultimately, we really, really want to save this car. Let's be honest, Jaguar don't even make proper cars anymore. They definitely don't make anything like a V12. Nobody makes cars like this anymore. And I think every one that we can save has to be a really good thing. And I'm really, really keen to save this car. It is fighting us quite a lot. The project has to make at least some financial sense. Nobody restores cars to make money. And I know when you restore a car, quite often it's done with heart and passion rather than financial sense, but it needs to make some financial sense. So this car needs to start giving me something back that we can work with, because right now it could still end up literally parts for sale at this rate if this car can't be saved. But that is not the plan. The plan is still very much we should and we must try and save this car. It's got one owner, 57,000 miles. This car is an absolute classic in the making, but it isn't worth a huge amount of money. So we can't just throw money at it for the sake of it. It's got to make some sort of financial sense, but we've got to try and save this car if we can.
On the whole, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm quite pleasantly surprised by that. I was a bit worried about just what we were going to find. So changing spark plugs in any engine should be pretty much straightforward, but these V12s are a bit of a pig. They're not the easiest thing to get to, and I think my concern around this at the moment is this engine has been exposed to a lot of dampness. Now, if those spark plugs are really rusted and corroded in, they could snap off. And that's not good news, because now you're talking about literally heads off and all sorts of engineering work. So the risk of this is probably that these spark plugs have seized through corrosion, like so many other things on this car, and we're into breaking spark plugs, and that could turn into a nightmare real quick.
There we go. On the whole, spark plugs themselves on the surface are rather crusty, but the points and the tips, I'd say they were relatively new. Could potentially say that these spark plugs have seen less than 1,000 miles. That's a good sign. That's the air conditioning pump, free moving. And that's all the auxiliary drive belts.
You're going to keep them so you can glue them back together, yeah?
Yeah, they are very well perished.
Can we get on the end of the crank, do you think?
Ah, yes, I should be able to now.
You could look at this project as being quite ambitious. The car does need a lot of work, but the truth is I think we've gone beyond ambitious to perhaps just plain stupid at this point, and maybe even a little bit irresponsible. But that's where the passion comes in, and that's where we've got to try and save this car if we can. That's not looking good.
That is not looking good. Oh, it is.
Still a lot of resistance there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's compression, still compression. Oh, I'm happy with that.
Are you?
I'm happy with that.
Okay. Why have you still got compression with the plugs out?
What, one plug in?
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I couldn't get the other plug out.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
You gave me a little heart attack there.
I left one plug in because to remove that one plug I'd have to remove the air conditioning condenser.
Right.
And the air conditioning pump, sorry.
So easy to service. So
easy. it was
okay.
about reducing the amount of compression that we had.
Okay.
What we'll do now is we'll get the camera down all of the bores now.
Yeah.
And we'll check to see if there's any corrosion or anything in there.
Okay.
We'll supply all of the all 12 pistons with a small amount of 530 oil.
Yeah.
Just to lubricate that, so any movement that we do make on it is going to it's not going to score the pistons or cause any problems.
Okay.
But I think that engine's very workable.
Okay. What's the next process to get it running?
Fresh plugs,
Fresh plugs, change the oil.
oil, fuel. Well, yeah, I think.
And see if she'll fire up, I guess.
I was going to say, I think it's more a case of seeing if we can get it to go off the key.
Yeah.
Or we may even be able to go from the starter motor if the key isn't working.
Okay, major hurdle covered there. She's not seized. Don't know about the gearbox yet, of course, but big step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a very big step in the right direction.
Alrighty, all right, nice work.